Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of the Horsemen podcast. And oh boy, this is a first. We are actually going to be debating and discussing an album. But of course, I'm not alone. Below me, who you can't see right now, is Artur Castanha. Well, now he's above.
Hello. Hello.
Then next to him on his right is Ricky Kalaman.
Yellow.
And then right next to me is the always lovely and beautiful Hannah Klein.
Yes.
And then, of course, me, Levi Thrash Maniac 99. And so, yes, first time we're discussing an album, and the album in question, in the title, we are discussing Agalloch The Mantle, an album that we have all talked about or put on lists in the past, and we thought, you know what, since we bring it up a lot on this show, why not do a whole episode on it?
Exactly.
So a good place to begin for this episode would be how we got into Agalloch, particularly this album, and all that. So I figured a good place to begin would be with the person who knows this album the best, Hannah.
Well, Agalloch, one of my all-time favorites. I was searching for music as you do and browsing bands on metal archives and whatever, and then I think I discovered Alcest before Agalloch, but I mean they're closely connected, and I enjoy post-metal, I enjoy doom metal, I enjoy black metal, and I enjoy a good mixture of everything, so why not check out Agalloch? And I forgot, to be honest, I've forgotten how I discovered them, but somehow I did. And the first track I ever heard from them was Pantheist from their acoustic folky EP, The White, which in itself is a phenomenal EP. And after that, I got curious, especially because of the atmosphere of this track. Then I started listening to more and more Agalloch, and I think the first song of The Mantle that I'd ever listened to was a Desolation song, the album Closer of The Mantle, and shortly after, I just had to get the entire album, and the first time I listened to it in its entirety, it was a revelation, a true revelation. Haven't stopped listening to it ever since. I've got the vinyl here and everything. I just love to put it on my record player and spin the entire thing. And that's basically how I discovered this thing.
All right, Ricky?
Well, if I remember correctly, I got into Agalloch when I was in my black metal phase. This is around the time, I want to say 2015, when I was getting into black metal, like Bastard Reapers, all those bands. You know, I was getting into that world. I just wanted more. I wanted more stuff. And in this random day, I put a playlist on YouTube, just random black metal songs. And an Agalloch song came up, which I'm like, okay, this is different. This is not your typical black metal song, because I always think of black metal as being more of a blast beats, satanic, raw sound. And with Agalloch, had a more crisp, better production, folky sound that kind of went against everything I thought of black metal at the time. But after listening to some things from Agalloch over the years, I began to understand that black metal is not just satanic and raw vocals and instrumentation. It's more than that, and Agalloch is one of those bands that makes me sometimes think that there's more to black metal than what it's been portrayed over the years, especially now. So yeah, that's it.
Artur?
Mostly I could say that the only reason why I started listening to Agalloch was because of this. I mean, Hannah brought it up on the first few episodes about this band called Agalloch. How, and Ricky as well, they both said that if you like black metal, doom, with a touch of folk, then you got to listen to Agalloch. Then more and more, just like on an album that we're going to talk on a future occasion, Primordial, The Nameless Death, they started to add up even more on this list. So I started listening into The Mantle and to see what all the fuss was about. And I have to say that I wasn't disappointed at all. I mean, I liked it very much. And even on recent times, I've heard to their last album so far, The Serpent and the Sphere, which is more of their folkiest of all the launches, possibly. But still, just like we got a lot of bands from Sam Dunn's documentary and from other documentaries as well, we got also from ourselves. And so that's how I got into Agalloch.
And then as far as me, well, over the years, over the past decade, I always heard the name Agalloch. I always kept seeing, like, on YouTube, music countdown videos, I would see, like, for certain, like, top metal songs of the 2000s, I would see Agalloch. For black metal, I would see Agalloch. For doom, Agalloch. Folk, Agalloch. So I just kept seeing Agalloch come up a lot. And then through Cover Killer Nation, back when he was going strong on YouTube, he would talk about Agalloch insanely a lot. And hell, one of his last videos he ever did was about his favorite albums of all time, and The Mantle was number one. And speaking of which, we was going to get him for this episode, but he couldn't make it. But we hope to get him back for a future episode at some point. But the big thing that got me into Agalloch, particularly The Mantle, was talking with you guys, because you guys kept talking about it all the time. So I'm like, all right, I'll relent. Let's take a look at this. And yeah, while I haven't listened to it nearly as much as everybody else, I can say that from top to bottom, it is a masterpiece. No question. So, now that we kind of got into that little rabbit hole, so now we're going to kind of wing this episode, considering we've never done an episode talking about one album incessantly. So I'm going to give the floor to Hannah on this one to tell us, where do we go now?
First, we should talk about the album cover, since that's basically the first thing that you see. I mean, it's a bit different from, at least from in my perspective, it's a bit different from your usual album cover. It's not a black and white photocopy of a dude with corpse paint somewhere in the Norwegian woods. It's much more organic. I mean, you have this stack, surrounded by this very simplistic and abstract landscape in the background, like a snowstorm, whatever it is, and just this majestic stack in the foreground. So you have this clear reference to nature that is ever present throughout the entire album, and that's one of the things that caught my attention first. That's always one of the first things catching my attention, the album cover artwork, and I think they did a phenomenal job choosing this very picture for the album. And the thing is, it's not entirely black, it's not entirely white, it's this kind of grayish mixture. You have lots of grays here, and I think that it perfectly fits the whole atmosphere of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there also I think that there was also an episode on Lock Horns. I think it was on the doom metal, and also, if I'm not mistaken, also on the folk, that they also put Agalloch, The Mantle, on that very same list.
Oh, it was the folk episode, yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it ended up not making the cut, unfortunately, but...
And I also know that they mention it throughout the top 10 doom metal albums as well. So,
And they got brought
Once
up
again-
briefly in the post-metal episode as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this album can basically be everything.
Folk, black doom, post, prog,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
everything.
There's
Yeah, I've always talked about this, but if we ever do like top 10 hybrid albums, the
This
Mantle
would
will
be up there, yeah.
up there on the list. And going with the cover, like Hannah said, it's not your typical black metal cover with a guy in corpse paint in the woods. This
It's
is
a
mostly
deer in
more-
the woods, yeah.
I don't know. I always thought it was a statue. Looks like a statue in my opinion. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of different grays, like light grays, like darkish grays. There's everything about it pops, especially since mostly about the Mantle talks about nature and talks about Portland, Oregon. Are they from Portland, Oregon?
Yeah.
I always forget.
yeah, they are.
Yeah. If anyone watching is from Portland, Oregon, and you get all the references, you know what Agalloch is talking about, since it's talking about Portland, Oregon. Like, I know
I
we're
mean-
gonna go.
I mean, I've been in Portland, Oregon. It's so green. Everything's surrounded by this beautiful nature.
Mhm.
And it just makes sense to incorporate that into their phenomenal music.
Yeah, so like if you're from Portland, Oregon, and you've not listened to the Mantle, I'm sorry, but you don't consider yourself an Oregon. I'm sorry. Your Oregon card.
You don't
removed.
consider yourself an Oregon.
I was going to say something, but
Yeah. Anyway.
because I promised that on this episode I was going to keep my Portland rants at a minimum.
Whack!
Um,
Whack you with a hammer, Artur. Whack, whack, whack. Like,
Um,
no.
and what, Levi? Anything you want to add about the cover?
Well, I guess what I could talk about with the cover, with the deer in particular, and then even with like some of the song titles, like The Lodge, that kind of hits at home with me, considering just a few miles down the road we have a hotel lodge with a lot of cabins in the woods, and a lot of us here in my area go deer hunting a lot. So, and heck, my uncle, who actually runs the gun store I work at, he actually has a lot of like deer mantelpieces in his house, so that definitely fits with my neck of the woods, especially during the winter time. And hell, I remember one time I posted a tweet or a picture on Facebook where I was around my house and it was snowing a lot, and I was like, who said you had to go to Norway to be in a black metal band when you got snow all over the place here? All I needed was corpse paint and spikes, and I would have been perfect with that.
Should go for it the next time.
You should make your uncle listen to the Mantle, or better yet, put it where you work, especially during the winter time. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot you close during the winter time.
No,
is something
no,
that-
that's the golf course that closes. I don't work
okay.
there anymore, so I'd be working at the gun store during the winter too.
Oh,
Thank God. So, but anyways, yeah, that was really all I wanted to add as far as the cover, is that it kind of fits in line with not only in Portland, Oregon, but in my neck of the woods, especially during the winter time when a lot of us go deer hunting and we have mantelpieces in our homes and stuff. So, and cabins in the woods. So, Artur, what about you?
Here as well, there's also a lot of hunting, but that's more. We don't hunt that much deers anymore. We tend to hunt a lot more boars as well, but
We don't have those here,
keep it in-
unfortunately. It's mostly deer.
we continue on. I'll be back in a moment.
So now that we kind of given a thesis on the cover, I guess the next place to go would be to talk about, well, the album, the songs themselves from top to
But-
bottom.
Before we do, dive into the single songs. I would like to get your opinion on whether you consider this album to be a whole entity, or whether you view the songs as single entities.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think because that's, in my opinion, the vital question regarding this album. Personally, in contrast to all the other Agalloch albums that I love, this for me is a whole entity. I rarely listen to single songs. It has to be the entire album, because I only get this very special mental feeling if I listen to the entire album in one go, and not just, let's say, one song or two songs. I have to expose myself or consume the whole entity to get this special feeling.
I mean, I think that one of the things that both Agalloch and another band that I tend to love, which is Karakangren, one of the things that they have in common is the fact that they can tell whole stories through their albums. I mean, with The Mantle, they're talking mostly about a bit the dark side of nature. They're talking about a bit the dark side of nature, the great cold death, the wooden doors as well. They're talking about that side. Whereas with Karakangren, you have to listen to the whole story from top to bottom. You cannot listen, for instance, to there is no fairy tale just by one or two songs. You have to listen the whole album to listen to the story, which is one of the great things that especially great metal musicians tend to do, which is tell stories and leave the rest to our imagination.
Yeah, I was going to say, now that you brought that question up, Hannah, yeah, because pretty much all the songs are connected track by track, yeah, you might as well call it a whole entity of an album, because there's no, like, cut, move on to the next song like most albums do. It's like every song is connected in some way, whether it was how the song ended and it leads into the next song, or it just carries over, which, so yeah, I would agree with Hannah that it is a whole journey, because yeah, all the songs are pretty well connected to each other.
Well, personally, I think there's just one song on this album that kind of stands as a single entity, or could stand as a single entity, and that's In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion. But besides that, I mean, the others.
Yeah.
The second song.
Yeah, I do consider, like you said, Hannah, the whole Agalloch Mantle album an entire entity, because sometimes it's hard when you listen to just one song and listen to the rest without getting the full story. And this is an album that you need to listen to in its entirety to get the full picture. If not, you're just gonna get a fraction. It's kind of like reading a book. You just read the first chapter, and don't read the rest. What's the point of reading the book? You need to read the entire book to get the story.
Exactly.
And you know, actually, now that we brought that up, like albums that are a whole journey, I think that the only other album I could compare this album to in terms of like how the songs are connected would be My Arms Your Hearse by Opeth, considering how that album was done, where it would go from one song and it smoothly transitions into the next, especially even with the lyrics. It goes into the next song perfectly. So I feel like both of those albums kind of are like a contrast of one another, but also companion, as far as like how one song, as it ends, it leads directly into the next song, whether it's through the lyrics or through instrumentation, what have you.
So basically a concept album in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, if I would have to compare this album to other albums, Insomnium's Winterskate, you have to listen to that one in its entirety, or Cowan's Thorny Night,
Edge of Sandy Crimson.
I mean, there are simply a few albums out there that you have to listen to in its entirety, and I think this one certainly is one of them.
So now that we got that
I-
out of the... Oh, Artur?
And Abigail, I mean, I was going to say that also in that list, I'm an Abigail, even though you have the single for The Family Goes, even for Abigail, you have to listen to the whole album to hear the story of Abigail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now let's talk about
ahead.
the songs themselves from top to bottom. So we kick off.
Ready for the death of men.
Yep, I was just about to say that. So we kick off the album with "Celebration for the Death of Man," which is the shortest song of the album at almost 2.5 minutes. And it's this beautiful acoustic beginning to get the tone set for the rest of the album. And a beautiful introduction track. And you know what? Now that I think about it, that's another episode idea we should do. Top 10 introduction songs into opening songs. And this, going into In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion, would be up there in that list. So I feel like, cue that for the list, Hannah. Top 10 introductory into opening track songs, however we want to word it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could have Priest in there, you could have Iron Maiden up there, there's a bunch.
For the Electric Eye, the healing.
Gillian Electric Eye, anyone?
Yep. Ides of March and the Wrathchild, anyone?
Burn
Yes.
My Forest in Spring by Panopticon.
The
Oh,
Prog, Nostradamus.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
But
we're gonna
anyways, so yeah. Any additional thoughts to Celebration for the Death of Man?
Yes, I mean this little intro is only 2 minutes 24 seconds long, but I think in this intro you see perfectly well what Agalloch is all about, and that is the layering of different instruments and of different sounds, and the kind of atmosphere you get from that. I mean, this song is consists of mostly of different layers of acoustic guitars, a bit of drumming here and there, a bit of noises when somebody knocks on a deer skull or something like that. I mean, there are lots of these kind of effects in Agaloch's music, this very natural effects. And I think in this little track, you basically get a feeling for what the entire album is all about. And I mean, the riffing is very simple, but the way it's layered is very complex, and that's what I really like about Agalloch. And you get a very good taste from this little instrumental.
Yeah, that's what I like about the Celebration of the Death of Man. You get a mini preview of what you're gonna get over the course of the album, because after this, oh boy, it's down or uphill from there, because after that, you have the journey begins. Well, the journey has begun for the Celebration, and then after that, it just gets higher and higher and higher. Especially that you always get that acoustic guitar, that same riff. It's all over the album. I just love that riff, because they riff. It's great.
Artur, any additional thoughts?
As in terms of intros, it's probably one of the best out there. And on an album that has 4 instrumental songs, it is saying a lot that this is arguably one of the best instrumentals on that. What?
Now that you brought that up, now that you brought in the instrumental stuff, if the Mantle were an instrumental album, like take away the lyrics and just leave the instrumentation, it will still be that good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I sometimes think the vocals on this album function more as an instrument or an effect, and not so much as vocals themselves. They blend into this kind of music, and it's just another layer of sound. I mean, you could easily replace those vocals with something else and it would still work. And I think that is one of the standout things about this album, is that the vocals do not overshadow the music. Instead, the music overshadows the vocals, and that's a great thing.
So So now that we've covered the basis with the opening intro instrumental, now it leads into, spoiler alert, my favorite song of the entire album, In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion. The longest of the album at almost 15 minutes.
And the best.
14:45.
Yeah. Oh boy.
What a roller coaster this song is.
Yeah. And by the way, just for people wondering, in the background right now in the podcast, the album's playing. Quietly, though. So, extra touch in there.
YouTube copyright.
No, not as long as it's quiet.
I was gonna say that, like,
and we're talking over it anyways, so...
So we have to keep talking.
It's not too bad, but anyways, and funny enough, In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion just started, so perfect segue.
Oh, that riff, that beginning riff.
Exactly.
that riff.
And one of the great things about, and I'm also listening in here on my headphones to it in the Shadow of Our Pale Companion, is the fact that, wow, 14 minutes and 45 seconds, and it's not boring. It's not something that is boring. It's not something that is dragging a lot, because you have the initial riff, but then the song changes again. It changes to something faster and then back to something more mellow as well. It's always innovating. While there are songs like, for instance, and Levi, you're going to hate me for saying this, like Black Rose Immortal from Opeth, that to me is one of the worst songs I've heard from Opeth because it drags on too long. Sorry to admit it. That's just me. But Shadow of Our Pale Companion, I mean, it doesn't drag on that much, and it's still very mellow, doomy as well, but still as beautiful as it can be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad now.
Sorry.
Why have you done this to me?
now that you brought that dun from the intro, if you think about it, that intro kind of sounds almost like at the beginning of Gallows Hymn in a much slower pace.
Yeah.
Because it's dun 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 dun, and this one's a bit faster. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
But in the Shadow of Our Pale Companion, there are days that I listen to this song just to go to sleep. One of these days when I listen to it at night, when it's raining, hardcore, when it's cold. I basically can listen to The Mantle anytime you want. It's perfect. And the thing about in the Shadow of Our Pale Companion that really caught my attention was the lyric that in the grand unknown before me is what you call God, then God is not dead. Here's the thing that the reason that caught my attention is because with black metal, they always talk about the negative side of religion and the bad stuff.
Yeah.
This glorifies it to the point that even if you're not a big metal fan, you listen to the song, you might think that these guys are somehow religious, Christian, whatever you listen to.
But
I know.
I always get the feeling that they glorify nature as their god, and
yeah.
and
I mean, that simply can be true, but I don't know.
It's just like Gojira. Gojira also, they sing a lot of death metal in a way, but they're always glorifying nature in a way.
Particularly ocean life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, just take this one passage. Here at the edge of this world, here I gaze at a pantheon of oak, a citadel of stone. If this grand panorama before me is what you call God, then God is not dead. And it's so deep, especially if you consider the rest of the lyrics.
It is so deep, like so. It could be a lot of things. I mean, we talk about lyrics mean so much to so many people, but that lyric in particular, get it tattooed, get it somewhere. It's just, I mean, if I could describe the album in just one lyric, that's it.
Yeah.
Game over. I'm done. Game over.
Yeah.
And the ending of that album, I like how it ends because it ends with almost like an earthquake, the sound of an earthquake that goes through, and that leads made me think of like something. Okay, something's gonna happen big, which leads to Odo, which we'll talk about eventually.
Yeah, I think for me, those shining moments of this song, first of all, the intro. I just love how instrument after instrument, layer after layer sets in. And it's not getting boring. I mean, the intro takes quite a while. But it's so interesting how this different the acoustic guitar, the electric guitar, the second acoustic guitar, and everything kind of work together. And then I mean, it starts developing, it starts evolving the song, and the vocals set in, and you get those beautiful lyrics about nature, about death, about life, about woods, about rivers running through the wild and so on, and this kind of narrator watching it all. And what peaks for me on this song, first of all, the passage I just quoted, and second of all, the fantastic second guitar solo. I mean, the guitar tone of that one, this little bendy notes of Don Anderson. It's, I mean, whenever I listen to those few notes, this solo, it just touches my heart. It's one of the shining moments of this songs. And then, like you said, the way the song ends on a bit harsher, a bit rougher note. There are just so many precious moments here.
But still, one of the best things about each and every single song of Agalloch, which is a trait for bands such as Opeth is the fact that every single song, it evolves. It's not always the same riff, it doesn't get stale. It's always evolving, and that's one of the characteristics of so many great bands. The riff might be the same, the song can be the same, but it's always evolving, and that's one of the great things about this album.
Yeah, and especially on this song. I mean, you have the intro riff, and it evolves throughout the entire song. I mean, it returns at times to get it back, but it's never stale. It's never boring. It keeps evolving. And I mean, this song is, like we said before, almost 15 minutes long. But for me, it doesn't feel like that that amount of time. I mean, whenever I listen to it, I'm so sad when it's over, and I want to restart it again and just listen to it again. And it's so addicting, so addictive, and yet soothing at the same time.
We should just rename this episode 2 in the Shout Out Pro Companion song discussion.
Or the Hannah show.
But back to me on this song. Funny enough, we're now on the stream. This part's now into that part of the song where it gets a little bit faster, but it's still very slow and it's very mellow. But my favorite moment, I would say, of the song is the lead up to the second solo where the drums go. I really love that rhythm pattern. That was such a cool moment with the in the background leading into the solo. I thought that was brilliantly done.
That's an awesome moment. I mean, every moment of this song is just precious. We could easily do a single episode of this podcast on this single song. That's how awesome it is.
But, well, actually, now it's time to move on. Time to move on to
Yodel.
Track number 3,
Yodel.
Odel, which is the second instrumental, and nearly 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 41 seconds to be exact, but, yeah, just one word to describe this instrumental: atmospheric, to say the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Start with Hannah for this.
I mean, what I really like about this instrumental are the different kind of phases this song moves into. I mean, first of all, it's a bit more quiet. It's very beautiful.
It starts
It's
off quiet, but with like almost
Yeah.
like a windstorm coming in, and
Yeah.
before the music kicks in.
I mean, whenever I listen to this one, I get the feeling that at first you are in a forest on a golden autumn day, and then it kind of it develops or evolves into something darker, like a snowstorm kicks in. I mean, there are moments on this song that it feels a bit darker, a bit harsher, but it still gets back to its initial beauty, and the way it moves back and forth between those kind of moods is one of the things that I really like about this song.
And one of the great things about the drums is the fact that they always keep on this marching beat, so to say, and they rarely change tempo, they rarely change speed. They do tend to change in the mid song, but they always keep on this kind of a marching band, so to say. And it's great. I mean, being a bit of a drummer myself, I still have to give all credit to John Hugum, who is a multi-instrumentalist on this, and it is pretty much amazing.
Mm-hmm. I've always thought of Odo as the saddest song of the album, because after they shut up a companion, you hear this earthquake, this catastrophe, and I'm guessing the Odo is the aftermath of what happens after the earthquake. And I like at the very end of the song, you get this piano section. Dun, 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 dun. Makes me sad because after that, like after this whole Odo thing happens, after the destruction that happens, tears begin to come to my face, like something bad just happened and there's no way of knowing what to do now, just moving on. Like I said, that piano section, always, whenever pianos or keyboards come into atmosphere, it has to be just perfect. And this is godly like that piano section, because it makes me want to play the piano for some weird reason, because it's that good. But it brings some tears to me, because I know what's gonna happen after that. We're gonna get more faster guitars, a bit more happier at the very end of the album. But I would always think it's like the saddest song of the album.
So with Odal out of the way, now we get to the song of the album that I consider the most black metal Agalloch ever got, and that's I Am the Wooden Doors. Especially the beginning where you get like the double bass kicking in and the crazy on the hi-hat and the snare, the fill, and then it gets into some tremolo riffing.
But funny enough, the first part of I Am the Wooden Doors, that first riff, I think I was listening into that exact album some time ago. It is basically the same thing as Vetres Villa by Rotting Christ. The double drums and then starting with the riff. Na, 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 na. It's if it's not the same riff, it's basically the same rhythm. Yeah. It's almost the same thing.
But yeah, like I said, this would be the one song on the album where you can consider it a full-on, almost black metal song, because it has a lot of those black metal tropes, the tremolo riffing, the Dark Throne-esque double bass patterns. So, and of course, this is probably the one song on the whole album that's mostly the screaming, shrieking vocals, with only a couple of sections of clean vocals on it.
The clean vocals at the end, especially of this this kind of chorus passage, work really well in with this song. And for me, the clean vocals are one of the highlights, or are the highlight of this song. Especially in combination with the lyrics, just so beautiful. Yet dark at the same time. I think placing this song right between or in the middle of the two instrumentals was a genius choice on Agalloch's behalf.
And another thing I forgot to mention I like about this song was the lead up to the clean part, where with the acoustic that I really liked how that part right there sort of reminded me of when Opeth does their acoustic parts in that sense, especially in their early days. That's what it reminded me of, hearing that gallop on the acoustic guitar leading into the clean passage.
Yeah, this is the closest thing that, like, you see Levi Agalloch going full on black metal, especially with the blast beats, like chitter, chitter, chitter. And I'm no drummer, but I can appreciate that a lot. Just I don't know, makes me wanna stand up and like march or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just a bit listening into both Vetri. Like I said, I was listening right now to both Vetri's Villa by Rotting Christ and also to the Wooden Doors. Basically the same thing, but I think that their inspiration might be a bit the same, since Agalloch the Mantle talks about nature itself, and Vetri's Villa by Rotting Christ is sons of the earth in Russian. So I can get why I can understand how they got their inspiration from Agalloch.
But leading out of I Am the Wooden Doors, immediately it goes into the next instrumental, my favorite instrumental personally on the album, The Lodge.
A lot.
Yeah, it's one of the shorter songs of the album at under hiccups at under 5 minutes, but it's such a beautiful instrumental.
Oh, yeah.
I just love it so much.
Especially with the start where you hear the people walking on the forest, and then you just listen to some of the woods, some of the wood bashing that give out this clicking sound.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I always thought of that, the clicking sound was like two rocks hitting each other. I always think that's more of a Native American thing.
It's more woods. It's more wood, I think.
Yeah, like two wood pieces crashing.
Yeah, I always thought of that more of a Native American thing that Native Americans do, because Oregon, I think, was one of the main areas that a lot of Native American tribes were in there. So, you know, kind of bringing that heritage to the album of the Native American people. And also like the violin section, you know. Again, violin, pianos, you have all there. It instantly gets me there.
But yeah, and one of the other reasons why I really like this song in particular, not only with the title of it being The Lodge, but it does, like I said when I brought up with the album cover, it's sort of in tone to how my area is during the winter time, especially in the lodge that my mom's the GM of, and we got the cabins there. It just sort of would be like one of those songs that you could pop in the earphones, walk around in the snow by the cabins, and just listen to this song and just feel at home. But leading out of the lodge, now that we're through with the first half of the album,
may I add something to the lodge? What I really like about the lodge are the acoustics, of course, and it reminds me so much of the White, the EP they released, because I mean they released the White afterwards, and this is just one glimpse of their capability of their regarding songwriting, especially in this kind of acoustic setting, and they perfected that on the White later on with an entire EP, and I mean, it's just majestic what they created here, and this kind of glimpse at what they would later do on EPs like the White, and that's why this song is really special to me, because it was kind of like the first showcasing that what they could do outside of this kind of black and doomy proggy metal setting.
Just on a bit of a side note, imagine cult leader Bray Wyatt coming out with any Agalloch song from The Mantle. That would be creepy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He should use "And the Great Cold Death of the Earth." That would be the perfect one.
Yeah.
Just a moment.
But moving out from the lodge, we get into, in my opinion, the saddest song of the album, "You Were But a Ghost in My Arms." Because, like, just song title alone, and then you hear the lyrics dealing with death and loss of a loved one. That definitely hit at home with me, considering over the past 4.5 years I've lost two important people in my life, my brother and my grandfather. So this song definitely I could relate to in a big way.
Yeah. When you have a lyrics like each
In fact,
night
I'm
I
getting a
lay,
little bit choked up a little bit just talking
yeah.
about it.
I mean, when you have a lyrics like each night I lay, awakened by her shivering, silent voice, for the shapes in the floating walls, it pierces the solitude like the one of distant scream in the pitch black forest of my delusion. I mean, if that's not sad enough, I don't know what it is.
Right. Hannah, you got anything you want to add to this one?
Well, it's just a touching, very deep song in my opinion. It's definitely one of the more quiet and solemn moments of this album, but it's just fitting. Despite the sadness it evokes, and it's just the way they incorporate this naturalistic elements. I mean, just counting the times they mention snowfalls and so on. It's just a perfect blend of nature and human emotions.
So, moving on from that, we get to an instrumental, so to speak. And Hannah just went.
The Hawthorne Passage.
The Hawthorne Passage with some spoken word sections towards the end. Oh, Ricky, what do you have to say? Because you're chomping at the bit right now, I can tell.
The Hawthorne Passage to me is my favorite instrumental from the entire album, because this instrumental, when I first heard it, I thought it was two songs. Because at the very half of it, you think you're done with the song, but then you get another section which I'm like, okay, that is the same song. But the reason that I connect this song a lot is because of the ending and the little passage that says, which is in Spanish. And, I know Spanish, and it's about some quotes from a movie, which I had the movie from now. Oh, shit, I hate when this happens. I had it right now. What's the name of the movie? The Hawthorne Passage. From the movie Fando y Lis, that was released in the late 60s.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
Hello.
my Discord was telling me that my microphone wasn't working again.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're good.
Yeah, you're
But
fine.
like I said, I understand those lyrics, and I'm gonna read them to you in English. I mean, in Spanish. Yo moriré y nadie se acordará de mí. Yo moriré y nadie se acordará de mí. De mí. Sí, Lisa, no me acordaré de ti. Iré a verte al cementerio con una flor y un perro. Y en tu funeral cantaré en voz baja. Qué bonito es ese entierro. Which you're like, what the hell did he just say?
Yeah.
It basically means that when this little girl dies, nobody's gonna see her. She's afraid nobody's gonna see her. And then this man says, I'll remember you. I'll go to your funeral, put flowers on your grave, and sing so softly how beautiful this funeral is with a dog. Which, again, like I said, this kind of hit me hard since they have the Spanish interlude there at the very end. It always brings kind of joy to me knowing that a band from all the way from Oregon puts that in a song that it's in Spanish. I always think it's kind of cool when that happens. Kind of like if an American band puts German lyrics without being German. It always brings a touch of home there, like a connection from there. always thought of the Horsemen passage as something personal for me.
Hannah?
Yeah, for me, what really stands out on this song is the guitar work of Don Anderson. I mean, at times the entire song feels like a big guitar solo, mixing acoustic guitars and electric guitars, and just the way the notes blend into each other, it has this kind of Pink Floyd feeling at times, and that's always a way of getting me, and it's. And just the way everything develops. In my opinion, this one is the best instrumental of the album, and the guitars definitely are one of the main reasons why. And I mean, when I listened to this song and I realized that there were Spanish spoken word parts on this song, and when I discovered what they actually meant. It made this song so much more deeper than it first was. One of the great compositions of Agalloch, putting together some stuff and it just works. And
Artur?
No need to add anything else to it.
So then we move. Oh well, the other thing I do want to bring up. Ricky brought up how it feels like a two-part song with how it sounds like it ends about halfway and then it picks up another section. I'd say a good comparison point would be to the song "Kiss My Ashes Goodbye" by Woods of Ypres, where it sounds sounds like the song ends, but then the second half of the song kicks in and it's something a little bit different. After all, both Woods of Ypres and Agalloch are often compared to one another, so I find that to be a perfect comparison point between those two songs in terms of the construction of the song. But moving on to the penultimate song of the album, and the Great Cold Death of the Earth. And right off the bat, when you see that title, you think dealing with planetary devastation through like the Ice Age, essentially. Hannah?
Well, this was actually the first song of the Mantle that really caught my attention. And for a long time, it used to be one of my favorite moments of this album. And the reasons why is very, very easy to explain. The lyrics. I mean, they're taken from this old Cherokee folktale. And just the first line. I mean, I'm not a native speaker, and I had to look up quite a few of the lyrics when I
the Cherokee folktale, Earth Making.
Yeah, and when I first got into Agalloch and translated parts of this, and I got the meaning just of the first line: "Life is a clay urn on the mantle," and then the next line, "And I am shattered on the floor," and it's just so fucking deep. Like the entire song, like the entire album, and the way the music floats around those lyrics. I was so enthralled by this song for a very long time, and the lyrics just put it on another level, and I really love this about this song.
Yeah,
that they
I forgot to mention
incorporated
that
something
with the lyrics, too.
Native American.
Ricky?
Basically what Hannah said. That's it, I have to say. But the Greater Cold Death of the Earth is a song that, if the Desolation song wasn't the final song, I would have been happy the song was the final song to end the album too. Because this song kind of like brings the whole story together, and I was thinking the Desolation song is kind of like the afterwords of it, because and it's the first song that actually says the Mantle, the name of the album.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too. Yeah,
there's some albums that have the name of the album but don't have it, and this is the only song that I think has the Mantle in the song. So it took them that long to put the name of the title in that song, which at least it's there.
Not everyone can follow the British tradition of song Iron Maiden by the band Iron Maiden on the album Iron Maiden, or
Agalloch
Black
by
Sabbath
Agalloch on the
by
album
Black
Agalloch.
Sabbath on Black Sabbath. Not everyone can follow the British tradition,
Mm-hmm.
but still,
Or the Doom
it is
tradition.
as you said, Ricky. Exactly, but it is as you said. I got a feeling that, in a way, the great cold death of the earth is. You could say that it's a bit the ending song, but later, what come next, the desolation song, you could consider that an epilogue song. It happens in
Yeah.
some areas.
Yeah, I think what really brings out this character of this song is the soft, almost spoken, solemnly sung vocals of this song. That's one of the things that also stands out for me. The way John Holmes sings the first stanza of the song, and the simplistic, stripped down way he does it. Yeah.
So then moving out of that, we get to the closing song of the album, a desolation song, which, well, you know, basically. Oh, go
The
ahead.
calmest, I want to say the most happiest song of the album.
Almost
excited
in
by
the way
yeah.
it sounds. Yeah, it does sound like a happy song, even though when you read the lyrics,
Even the mandolin gives it a bit of a folky, happier
Which I was
atmosphere.
gonna say, this ends in a more folky style because just John Hall, clean vocals with the acoustic guitar.
yeah, I
And
was
then you
gonna
have
say
like
that too.
And the mandolin.
Yeah, the mandolin there brings perfect, and then I like
And
the way.
if I'm not mistaken, they're also getting a bit of an accordion. Yeah, they have an accordion here on this song. This could be the desolation song, despite what the title is. It can be a song that, pardon the cliche, we can sing around the campfire.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
and
is a good point.
That's the
That is a good
exact
point.
same feeling I always get whenever I listen to this song. That, I mean, after John Hom or Agalloch themselves have told this epic, very sad story about nature, death, and life, and so on. I mean, he just is like, well, now that we told it, let's go to the campfire. I get out my acoustic guitar. I have those 4 riffs. I mean, this song only consists of 4 riffs, and then let's just jam a bit.
And the mandolin,
Happiest.
and the mandolin as well.
Yeah. I mean, Don Anderson has the mandolin, of course, and John Holm the acoustic guitar, and then just let's jam a tune at the fire. And it's just, I mean, after all the sadness and those solemn moments, it's just the perfect way, in my opinion, to end this album on at least slightly happier note.
And the thing I like about the Desolation song, the ending, it ends kind of like the lodge starts.
Yeah,
and it
with
makes
the
me-
wood
it-
pieces
yeah.
clacking.
Yeah, and at times I thought makes me think like maybe there's gonna be more, like king, and then like a small pause, king, small pause, and I'm just waiting for the next king. The owl ends. I'm like, oh, I was waiting for the other cling.
It was like he got edged out and they just stopped.
Exactly. I was like, oh, I was waiting for the
Sex
other one,
jokes for the win, baby.
demonetized.
We'll see.
Yeah, I know. But I think Desolation song, that ending fits perfectly to the album. I would like it if the ending would have been kind of like how the Celebration of Death started, almost in a way to kind of like bring the whole album together. But still, it's a very good ending.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like I
with
said,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, you were gonna say?
yeah, Artur, go ahead.
I was going to say just what I mentioned just a little bit. you can make the whole song just until just until the great cold death of the earth, and then epilogue, the desolation song. Because as you said, we've talked about nature, we talked about what it could happen, death, the rebirth, and such. Why not getting a little bit more happier to it with the despite what the title might say, it is, as you said, it is the happiest. It is the happiest song on the album. And like I said, if there's one thing about folk that I've learned, you can't go wrong with mandolins. You can't go wrong with mandolins.
But the thing I was gonna bring up with Desolation Song now that like hearing the comparisons of like how it's a happy song, campfire song, it's almost like as if they put this song last to kind of give the notion that, yeah, we deal with death, we deal with loss and bad things in life, but why not try and live your life to the fullest and enjoy yourself at a campfire and spend time with family and learn to enjoy life. And I feel like that was like the perfect way to kind of like bring the emotion back up, because yeah, like especially after songs like "You Were But a Ghost in My Arms," being, in my opinion, the sad one of the album and dealing with loss and despair and sorrow, you end off with like basically a song that tells you, don't think about that all the time and just try and live your life to the fullest.
Always get the slight impression that this song is like, well, now that it's over, get yourself a bottle of whiskey, sit at the fire, and just look into the fire, neither enjoying it nor mourning yourself. Something sort of as a middle ground. At least that's what my impression.
Death will come in many different ways. So enjoy the life. So enjoy your life to the fullest. That's the life.
And don't think too much about it.
No.
At least that's what I think that this song sometimes is about.
But
it's not wrong.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
Well, now that we've covered the songs top to bottom, now comes the interesting task, and that's trying to decide the top 3 songs of the album that you enjoy the most. Oh man, where to begin with this? I guess for me, I would have to say, of course, number 1 being In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion, as we all discussed. The Lodge
is on my list.
I would say The Lodge is up there for me, and then the third one, it's a toss-up between You Were But a Ghost in My Arms and I Am the Wooden Doors. But I'm going to go with I Am the Wooden Doors because that has been one of the songs I listened to the most off of this album for its black metal tropes. So those would be my personal 3, with You Were But a Ghost in My Arms kind of trying to sneak in there in some way. Artur?
Same thing with in the Shadow of Our Pale Companion. I would go with the Hawthorne Passage. To me, I would say that the Hawthorne Passage is arguably the best instrumental on the album. Although A Celebration for the Death of Man, I can see sliding in, but not that much.
Not quite in there.
And yeah, but last but not least, I mean, it is a tie between the Great Cold Death of the Earth and also the Desolation Song. I'm sorry, but the Desolation Song, it can be you could say it is one of those songs that it could be, most people would go, wait, I just listened to this droney, atmospheric type of album. Now I finish with a campfire song?
Step aside, SpongeBob. The real campfire song is Desolation Song. Fuck you. I'm sorry, I love you, SpongeBob. No hard feelings.
But still, I mean, it is what it is. it is what it is. Shadow of Our Pale Companion, The Hawthorne Passage, Great Cold Death of Distance with Desolation Song very close by.
Ricky?
Gonna set up Pale Companion, of course. After that, The Hawthorne Passage. And thirdly, it's between Orbital and You Were But a Ghost in My Arms. Those two kind of like almost, since they're both sad songs, they're kind of neck and neck, but I'll go with Orbital and then You're a Ghost in.
And last but certainly not least, Hannah.
Full Hannah, and I'm simply choosing the entire album. No, but if I had to choose 3 songs of this album, the first one, of course, would be in The Shadow of Our Pale Companion. It's just, I mean, if you compress this album into one song, it would be that song. Second would be a Desolation Song. I just love this kind of feeling of solemnly sitting at the fire and not thinking about anything, and I just love this kind of moody moment at the end with a touch of happiness thrown into the mix. And then the third one would be the Hawthorne Passage. I think it's the best instrumental of this album, and just the guitar tone and the guitar movements and the whole development of this song. And then the Spanish outro, the spoken words. It's just so beautiful. But then again, no moment on this album is wasted. And that's, I think, one of the that's what the beauty of this album is all about.
Absolutely. Well, that pretty much wraps up the discussion for the album, but we'll stick around a little bit and get some questions from people watching.
There's one thing I want to mention, and it's not about the album, but like the physical copy. For years, I tried looking for the Mantle on CD, and I've always seen it $50, $60, $120. I mean, it's one of those albums that a newer fan listens to. They need to get it somehow on physical copy, because it's one of those albums that will forever stand the test of time. And for an album to be $70, $100, released in 2002, to have that lineage still going on, says a lot. Luckily, I was able to get mine for $25. I mean, I think it's from the second edition. I'm not sure. I mean, it is from the End Records, so it could be the second edition. But
that's probably the second.
I've seen the first edition albums go for like hundreds of dollars.
Could we consider this an album that probably wasn't that much well known when it was released, and it started to gain a cult following thanks to it?
Yeah.
Thought I was the only one with that train of thought.
I always got the feeling that this album, I mean, it came out in 2002, and just listen to it nowadays, it's still well ahead of its time. And I think that a lot of people back in the early 2000s did not know what to make of this one. And they only over time started to comprehend how truly masterful it actually is. And Agalloch themselves, I mean, this was only the second album released by them. Before that, they only released Pale Folklore. And I think that's one of the main reasons why it wasn't that sought after in the beginning, but over time, I mean, it took me quite a while to find the vinyl, and this is only a bootleg that I've got. Still a very good pressing, but only a bootleg. It's hard. It's almost impossible to get a decent copy for a decent price nowadays, since they haven't really released it properly.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I'm guessing the Mantle didn't get that big at the time is, look at the landscape of 2002. What was popular in 2002?
New metal.
New metal and metalcore was starting to become big at the time.
And this was still when black metal was still associated with the Norwegian church burning. So for a band to be considered, even though Agalloch, they're not really black metal, but they're in the black metal.
Yeah, I mean,
genre.
especially if you look at Pale Folklore. I mean, that's a lot blacker. There are a lot more black metal elements on there than on their later albums.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, they didn't touch black metal for a while because of the whole Norwegian black metal scene. They thought that every single black metal band was the same as the Norwegians.
Satanists, church burning Satanists.
It's always the thing. It's always the thing that has handicapped, especially many extreme metal bands in the early and late 2000s. The rules.
But
I mean,
like I said,
there was always. It is what Silenos and Danny Field said on the Metal Evolution album. Why there should be a set of rules? I mean, was there a set of rules that was established on black metal before Mayhem, before Emperor, Dark Throne, or any of those other bands? So why there wasn't a rule book set on that time, but now there has to be a set of rules on this time? I mean, extreme metal, it can be anything. It can be anything that it can be. I mean, we have seen death metal bands from traditional death metal to grindcore, and to grindcore, gore grind, and all those, trying to get even more extreme. Black metal has gone to symphonic black metal, which was a big no for the true cultists at the time, which is BS.
Yeah.
It is true, but it went symphonic, it went atmospheric, it went
melodic, it went
melodic, it went depressive as well.
It went death.
Exactly. I mean,
and everything in between, folky, black. It incorporated black gaze, everything. It's that's I think one of the beauties of the scene.
It is a bit that preset notion of what black metal was supposed to be or extreme metal was supposed to be. But here's the thing. There are no rules. If you think that this can be combined, if this can be very well combined, I mean, we have heard black metal even incorporating a bit of sitars, incorporating violins, incorporating everything and anything, and still doesn't.
I mean, just look at Igor, what they're doing with the music mixing.
I mean,
but here's the. But go ahead.
I mean, the problem is not the bands that want to experiment; it's the fan base. I mean, if you look, like I said, if you look an album like The Mantle and compare it to something like Primordial to Nameless Death, a lot of people will not compare them both and be similar. When in reality, if you listen to both of them at the same time, they're so similar in so many ways. You got folk elements, you got atmosphere, black metal, you got so many things. Just the only thing that makes them different is because Primordial is a bit faster than Agalloch. That's the only thing. But at the end of the core, they're the same. But it's the fan base.
I think that most people would rather associate Agalloch with, for instance, bands that you just mentioned, Woods of Ypres, Alcest. They would sooner attach to those bands because of those similarities than to say that, for instance, Primordial, which I never consider, but in a way, they're both very experimental bands.
I mean, Agalloch, and Agalloch can be compared to early Burzum. As much as we don't like Varg, as much as we don't like Varg, we cannot deny that Varg brought so much atmosphere to black metal.
Yeah, I mean, Varg was the first one who emphasized on atmosphere instead of lo-fi brutality. And
wasn't Quorthon also experimenting? Wasn't Quorthon the first one to do so.
Honestly,
that he was
Yeah,
already
but not to the extent that
No.
Varg was.
no. But you could say that he was the inventor. Varg was a perfecter of it.
yeah.
I mean, and then you bring Emperor into the picture. I mean, you got.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Emperor. That. I mean, you can also say Emperor can be also be a big important part in atmosphere black metal.
And now,
Which
going
later-
back to talking about how like the fan bases want black metal or extreme metal, death metal, grindcore to be one specific thing. I feel, and I agree with Artur, and like with Danny Filth, there shouldn't be any rules to what you can and can't do within extreme
Exactly.
metal. I mean, you look at a band in death metal like Time Ghoul, who I've been into, they incorporate barbershop quartet parts into their songs, which is something unusual for death metal standards, but they make it work and make it sound evil and sound really cool, even though they're no longer around. But the point of it is like, do whatever you want within the music. I feel, and that's another great reason why we're talking about the Mantle, because basically the Mantle takes so many elements, as we've brought up, folk, black, doom, post, prog, all into a blender, and as it's like a painter's example. You have a bunch of different colors with a brush, you just paint with as many colors as you want, and see how the piece comes out at the end, and in the Mantle's case, it came out beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a perfect stack on the album cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, what I think is really important. I mean, the way they blend and combine and stuff like that. It's important to for keeping the music interesting. If you just follow rules and create music, always the same sort of way, always the same riffing, the same kind of drumming, the same bass patterns, and the same vocals, it will get stale. And I think if bands like Agalloch hadn't done what they had, music today would be a lot less interesting than it would be.
As once again bringing back the Metal Evolution documentaries, as the great Deep Purple drummer Ian Pace once said, and he said on that interview, it is not that important for us to become number 2 Vanilla Fudge, which was the band that Deep Purple in the early stages was trying to copy, but it is important to be number 1 yourselves.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what Hannah just said. You don't need to copy anything else. Create your own style.
Yeah.
And in the words of Go Nilok, it ain't no sin for a band to be derivative in the early days to get started, and then create your niche after you've had some years under you doing demos or little live shows here and there, and then once you get better at playing and better at song crafting, then you can become your own thing. I mean, hell, look at a band like Beharit. Early on, you could say they were a copycat of Blasphemy, but then they found their own sound and became something quite revolutionary for black metal or blackened death metal, whatever you want to say.
I mean, take a subgenre like Death Doom. If you would have asked back in the 80s, Death and Doom in one genre, they would probably thrown you. It would have been impossible. But look at it now.
Yeah.
Look at it now. Death Doom's probably the most popular subgenres in the underground. Sure, you got some Death Doom bands that are more to the more death side, more gory side, and you got Death Doom bands that are more to the more melodic, sad side, which is my neck of the woods. And with Levi, I know that's your
more closer to the
side.
Death and the Black Sabbath end of the scale.
Yeah, but still, it's okay. I mean, just because I like the more melodic Death Doom
doesn't mean you can't
like
appreciate the classic style of Death Doom.
Exactly.
Like
I can
Autopsy, Asphyx, Hooded Menace.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now.
Paradise Lost in the early stages.
Yep.
Early Paradise Lost, early My Dying Bride, even early Anathema. But I mean, there's no question that I can listen to.
Sorry, but I have to say this about
Great.
Anathema.
Here we go.
Yeah, no.
Hipster.
Yeah, I've talked to this before. Anathema, I'm sorry, Anathema. I love your early stuff, but right now, Oh no, no,
Ew.
no, no,
Hipster!
no.
Hipster!
But what I was going to go is that right now I can listen to Aspects, and then I can listen to My Dying Bride. There's no rules to what you can and can't listen. Like it's not like someone's
True.
gonna come. It's not like someone's gonna come to my door and say, "Oh, you're listening to My Dying Bride? You're like Swallow the Sun, fucking poser." And I'm like, and
I
I'm
mean,
like,
I mean, everything is possible. I mean, I was listening yesterday evening. I was listening to The Mantle. After that, I listened to Nancy Sinatra, and then to Caius.
exactly. I mean that's the thing that metal. A lot of metal fans like that. If you talk to them, they don't stick to one genre or subgenre. Like right now,
No.
The Mantle. We're talking about The Mantle. Next thing you know, I can put up some Beatles, or I can put some Metallica, and after that, I can put some, I don't know, some harsh grindcore. I mean, I always like to go different places. I like to stick to just one genre because it's no fun. Because
Diverse,
That would be boring
in a
as
way-
fuck.
In a word, open your horizons. Diversify.
Expand your horizons, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Just don't stick to one genre because lately it's gonna get stale and you're gonna get tired of it.
And besides, you want the prime example of, like, diversity. Look behind me with my CD collection that's on, like, this shelf, that shelf, and that shelf. It starts with Aborted, ends with Guardians of the Galaxy soundtracks. So there you go.
I mean,
You
But a
go
good
from
so-
death
but a good
metal to
soundtrack
classic
nonetheless.
rock.
But a good soundtrack nonetheless.
I mean, look at mine. Mine starts with AC/DC and it ends with Trees of Eternity.
So, yeah. People who are watching the stream, if you have any questions you'd like to ask us regarding the music, let us know.
I think
Or any other subject.
before the episode, we also talked about other music we would suggest out of Agalloch's discography.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
that's true.
Oh yeah.
Who wants to start?
Um,
I guess I will. Everything.
yeah.
Short, sweet, to the point.
I mean, for me, there's
I guess
only
the closest album I could think that could hold up to The Mantle, even though I need to listen to it more, but I hear so much positive about it, and that's Ashes Against the Grain.
Oh, listen
I
to
was
that
gonna
one. Listen
mention
to
that.
that one.
that and
I
the
would-
White EP. Both
I
of them.
can go in a bit of two ways. If you want to hear something that is closer to the metal, I would say either pick up the Pale Folklore or Ashes as well. If you want Ashes Against the Grain, if you want something that goes more towards the folkier side, go and pick up Serpent and the Sphere.
Their last album, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you want something more melodic, I know this is from a different subgenre. Let me see if I can get the album here. I would go.
And if you
some-
want the more black metal side, Pale Folklore would be the one.
if you want something more melodic, even though it's not really Agalloch-like, check Insomnium, Hard Luck the Grave.
Oh.
Yeah. Or even Borknagar. You can check early Borknagar, the latest Borknagar
Oh
album.
yeah. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
anything they've done, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But now,
I was just.
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was saying that I wasn't going to other bands. I was thinking more selecting
Within
other
Agalloch's realm.
discography. Yeah.
Well, if I may suggest something, for me, the holy trinity of Agalloch, without doubt, is The Mantle, Ashes Against the Grain, and The White, the acoustic EP. I think those three releases, for me, are the most important they've ever released. Ashes, of course, has more single standout songs than
Like
The
Falling
Mantle.
Snow.
Oh, or not unlike The Waves or the Bloodbirds song, the second part of the lengthy trilogy that ends the album, and then The White. I mean, just every single song of this acoustic EP is perfect in my opinion. Pale Folklore, if you like black metal a bit more with a very folky touch, like early Ulver. Bergtat would be a good comparison to Pale Folklore. I mean, Mirror of the Spirits, there's a couple great songs on here, and what I really want to recommend is the split release with Nest. That is a very strong release. Only 2 songs, one by Nest, I think Last Vestige of Old Joy is the name of the song, and one by Agalloch. Perfect little EP. I mean, they collaborated with Nest, and they or I think it's just one guy from Finland, and he plays this native Finnish instrument called the kantili or something like that, and the way it works with the Agalloch acoustic guitars is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. If there's a band that I could recommend close to Agalloch, check out Pelorian. Check them out, especially the album Obsidian Arc. It's
the last song of that album is like it's just like Agalloch. But I forgot the name of this song.
I mean, if you go to Metal Archives, Over is another band you can listen to. Alcest, Woods of Ypres,
early Woods of Ypres,
Solstafir.
Oh yeah,
it's a good band. October Falls.
Fen from England are also a good comparison. They are also very folky. But the song that I wanted to recommend from Pelorian, the name of the song is Dark is the River of Men. That is a fucking awesome song. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Pelorian album, the Obsidian Arc, but the album Closer makes listening to this album so worth it. And everybody who has listened to this album will tell you that this is the most Agalloch song of the release.
Personally, from that album, I like the intro track by The Light of the Black Sun. I don't know why. Maybe because of the name of the title. Just so catchy. I like that.
If I could compare Agalloch to another band in terms of the atmosphere, the depressive atmosphere, I would say Catatonia. Particularly Dance of December Souls era Catatonia.
Early Catatonia.
Which you could argue, Ricky, was the beginning band of the more melodic side of Death Doom was with that album. Because then you get with Brave Murder Day, it's more classic Death Doom. Before they decided to become more gothic prog doom until now.
Yeah. I mean...
And then...
Well, go ahead.
And I wanted to mention another little small band from Utah called Gallobraid. If you turn up the melodic part or the melodic side of Agalloch, you will get Gallobraid. They only released one EP, Ashen Eidolon. It's folky, it's the black elements are there, the atmospheric, the doomy elements, but especially the folk. It's also an EP worth checking out.
So I think that's a good ending point for this episode. All the bands we recommend similar to Agalloch in some way, shape, or form. So that was episode 37. We still got a lot of episodes on the queue coming up. Hell, the next episode, it's going to be a hard one. Top 10 band logos. And there are a lot of great logos out there. Hell, 2 of them right there. Mayhem and Agalloch.
Blind Guardian is also a good logo.
Then after that, we're doing another pretty interesting one. Top 10 British metal bands. Oh, I feel like we're gonna battle over 1 and 2 so much in that episode.
Maybe the top 3. Top 3.
Yeah.
Top 3.
Yeah.
But especially the top 2. Especially top 2.
I just want to say that if you're planning anything in August, I'll be out. My parents are going on vacation. I'm going with them. I'll be out most of August. So I won't be able to do any episodes in August.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like we might have one episode. The band logos episode probably would happen in August. So the three of us, or if
So,
Raphael's around,
I'm already-
the four of us could.
I'm already cutting
Carry it.
myself off it. So
But,
you can still send your list.
yeah, like Hannah
I'll
did
do.
for the
I'll do.
prog episode.
Yeah.
I'll do.
Killer Nations had lots of honorable mentions.
Yeah, last second that he forgot. Yeah. Um, and I know sometime in between we got the 2-year anniversary episode that we're doing. And then after that we got top 10 Black Sabbath songs, which that's going to be quite a task. And then so many others after. I think after Sabbath is debut albums, which, oh boy.
Debut albums. Wasn't there another one that we were going to do, the EPs and such?
That's the one after.
Yeah, top
Okay,
10
okay.
demos, EPs, what have you. Something that
Bootlegs.
isn't a full-length studio album.
Whoa, bootlegs! Woo, boy!
We should also do a top 10 live albums episode.
I have to listen to more live albums to even talk about that. Because the only live album I've really listened to in my life was S&M
Kiss
by
Alive,
Metallica.
don't say.
But
You don't say Kiss Alive.
because fuck Kiss. Anyways, yeah, I said it. Fuck off. Anyways.
That-
So anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back hopefully soon for the band logos and all the episodes to come after that. Until next time, this is Levi, Hannah, Artur, and Ricky. Horns high, and we'll see you next time. Jackass.